The journey through hyperspace in Wanderer's ship was unlike anything the crew had experienced. Instead of the violent shaking and stress of normal, faster-than-light travel, they moved through folded space as smoothly as floating on calm water. "This is impossible," Bora said for the 10th time, studying the engineering displays. "According to everything I know about physics, we should be dead right now." "Your physics are incomplete," Wanderer explained patiently. "My creators understood that space is not empty. It has structure like fabric. Instead of tearing through it with brute force, we simply step between the folds." Bora spent hours documenting everything she saw. The ship's systems were beyond anything humans had imagined. The hull could shift its molecular structure to become harder than diamond or softer than silk. The ship could phase through solid matter by adjusting its quantum frequency. Most amazing of all, the ship could create anything they needed by rearranging atoms from collected space dust. "If we could build ships like this," she told Deho excitedly, "humans could explore the entire galaxy." "Focus on understanding it first," Deho replied. "Building comes later." Taman was having his own revelations with the navigation systems. The star chart showed not just where things were, but where they had been and where they would be. He could plot courses that took advantage of stellar movement and gravitational currents to travel faster than should be possible. "Captain," he called from his station, "I'm detecting ships following us." On the main display, several distant contacts appeared. They were still far behind, but closing the gap. Helix Collective patrol ships, Wanderer identified. They must have detected our departure from Kepler Station. "Why would they follow us?" Deho asked. His answer came when the lead ship transmitted a message. The image of an insectoid alien appeared on screen. Its compound eyes glittered with cold intelligence as it spoke. "Unknown vessel. This is Commander Crix 9 of the Helix Collective Defense Fleet. You are in possession of stolen property. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." Deho activated the reply channel. "This is Captain Kim of the human vessel. We legally salvaged this ship under galactic salvage laws." "Negative," Crix 9 responded. "That vessel was abandoned by its rightful owners and belongs to the galactic community. No single species may claim technology of such power. Since when do the Helix Collective speak for the galactic community?" Deho shot back. "Since primitive species started playing with forces beyond their understanding," the alien commander replied. "Prepare to be boarded." The transmission ended and the pursuing ships increased speed. "How many ships?" Deho asked. 7 vessels, Taman reported, all armed with military-grade weapons. "Wanderer, can we outrun them?" "Easily," the AI replied. "But they will continue to pursue us, and they are already broadcasting our location to other fleets. Soon we will face dozens of ships instead of 7. What are our other options?" "We could demonstrate that their weapons cannot harm us," Wanderer suggested. "Sometimes a show of superior capability prevents unnecessary violence." Bora looked up from her engineering console. "What kind of demonstration?" "Watch and learn," Wanderer said. The pursuing ships opened fire when they came within range. Plasma beams and energy missiles streaked toward Wanderer's ship, weapons powerful enough to destroy a space station. But instead of raising shields or taking evasive action, Wanderer simply changed the ship's quantum frequency. The weapons passed through them harmlessly as if the ship wasn't there. "Impossible," Crix 9 transmitted. "No known technology can phase shift while maintaining structural integrity." "Your knowledge is limited," Deho replied calmly. The Helix ships regrouped and tried a different approach, surrounding Wanderer's ship in a formation meant to prevent escape. That's when Wanderer demonstrated the ship's other capabilities. Moving faster than the aliens could track, the ship phased through their energy shields and used precisely controlled gravity pulses to disable their weapons and engines. Within minutes, 7 military vessels floated helplessly in space, completely intact but unable to fight or flee. "This is a warning," Deho transmitted to the disabled fleet. "We don't want to hurt anyone, but we won't be stopped either. Spread the word. The humans are going somewhere important, and anyone who tries to interfere will be left behind." As they continued their journey, word of the encounter spread across the galaxy. The demonstration had been exactly what Wanderer predicted: impressive, enough to make people think twice about attacking them. But it also attracted attention they didn't want. Multiple contacts approaching, from 3 different directions, Taman reported hours later. Mokari Trade Syndicate ships, Zephyrian military vessels, and... "Oh no, what is it?" Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. 12 heavy cruisers. The communications board lit up with incoming messages. The Makari offered to buy the ship for enough rare metals to make Deho's crew wealthy beyond imagination. The Zephyrians demanded that humans share the technology in the name of galactic security. The Galactic Council insisted that the ship be turned over to them for proper study and safekeeping. Everyone wants what we have, Bora observed. The question is, what do we want? Deho said he thought about his options. They could sell the ship to the Makari and retire rich. They could give it to the Council and probably receive official recognition for humanity. They could ally with the Zephyrians and gain military protection. But all of those choices meant giving up the ship and never learning what the architects had left behind. Wanderer, he said. How close are we to the coordinates? 3 days at current speed, the AI replied. But with hostile fleets converging on our position, we may not have 3 days. Then we go faster. Captain, Taemin warned. The ship is already moving at maximum safe speed. Going faster could tear us apart, could it? Deho asked Wanderer. The safety limits are calculated for species with limited understanding of dimensional physics, Wanderer replied. Humans have proven more adaptable than most. I could increase speed, but the crew would need to trust my systems completely. Bora checked her displays. The ship's structural integrity is holding perfectly. I say we risk it, Taemin. The navigator looked nervous but nodded. If we're going to do this, we might as well do it right. Maximum speed, Wanderer. The ship accelerated beyond anything that should be possible. Space around them became a blur of lights and impossible colors. The pursuing fleets fell behind as if they were standing still. But even at this incredible speed, they weren't alone. Long-range sensors detected massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. Every major power was mobilizing ships and heading toward the coordinates. They figured out where we're going, Taemin said. How? Deho asked. The Helix Collective shared our navigation data before we disabled their ships, Wanderer explained. Every species in the galaxy now knows the location of the architect treasure. So we're not just racing to get there first, Bora realized. We're racing to get there before a galactic war breaks out. Through the viewports, they could see their destination approaching, a massive nebula that glowed with strange colors. Hidden somewhere in that cosmic cloud was the greatest treasure in the galaxy. Approaching the Crimson Nebula, Taemin reported. I'm detecting massive artificial structures inside. And I'm detecting multiple fleets already en route, Bora added. This is going to be close. Wanderer, Deho said, I hope your creators built good defenses around their treasure. They did, the AI replied ominously. But the defenses were not meant to keep people out. They were meant to test whether those who found the treasure were worthy to possess it. What kind of test? The kind that most species fail, Wanderer said as they plunged into the nebula. The kind that determines the fate of civilizations. Ahead of them, massive shapes loomed out of the cosmic fog, structures so large they dwarfed entire planets. And racing toward those same structures from every direction came the fleets of a dozen different species, all determined to claim the architect legacy for themselves. The real test was about to begin. The architect station was beyond anything they had imagined. It formed a complete ring around a dying star, large enough that entire planets could have fit inside its structure. The metal gleamed with an inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat, and geometric patterns covered its surface in designs that seemed to shift and change as they watched. How old is this thing? Bora whispered, staring at the massive construct. Ancient beyond measure, Wanderer replied. My creators built it before your son was born, when the galaxy was young and different species lived in harmony. Different species lived in harmony? Taemin asked. What happened to them? The same thing that happens to all great civilizations, Wanderer said sadly. They forgot how to work together. They became convinced that their way was the only way. They fought wars that destroyed worlds and killed entire species. As their ship approached the station, automated systems scanned them. Lights appeared along the station's surface, creating a path toward what looked like a docking bay. The station recognizes me, Wanderer explained. It will allow us to enter, but the real test begins inside. They docked in a bay that could have held 1,000 ships their size. The air was clean and breathable, though it felt strange in their lungs, charged with energy like the air before a storm. The atmosphere contains elements that will help your minds adapt to what you're about to see, Wanderer explained. The architects learned that some truths are too large for unprepared minds to understand. They walked through corridors lined with what looked like crystal windows. But instead of showing the space outside, each window displayed scenes from across the galaxy. Some showed beautiful worlds with cities that reached toward the stars. Others showed barren planets where nothing moved except dust in the wind. These are memory windows, Wanderer said. They show the rise and fall of civilizations across galactic history. The architects documented everything. In one window, they saw a species that looked like walking plants creating amazing art from living trees. In another, beings made of pure energy built structures from crystallized light. Window after window showed species they had never heard of, each with their own achievements and their own stories. What happened to them all? Deho asked. They followed a pattern, Wanderer replied. First, they developed technology. Then they conquered their worlds. Then they reached for the stars. Then they met other species and tried to impose their ways on them. Then they fought wars that destroyed everything they had built. Is that humanity's future too? Bora asked quietly. That depends on the choices your species makes, Wanderer said. The architects built this station as both a warning and an opportunity. They preserved the knowledge and wisdom of all the fallen civilizations, hoping that someday a species would learn from past mistakes. They reached the heart of the station, a vast chamber filled with floating platforms connected by bridges of solid light. At the center stood a structure that looked like a tree made of crystal, its branches reaching toward a dome that showed the entire galaxy in perfect detail. The repository of worlds, Wanderer announced. Everything that the architects preserved is stored here. The scientific achievements of 1,000 species, art and culture from civilizations that spanned star systems, social and political systems that brought peace to entire sectors of space. Deho walked closer to the crystal tree. As he approached, images began to appear in its surface. He saw technologies that could restore dead worlds to life, medical knowledge that could cure any disease, social systems that had prevented war for thousands of years. This is incredible, he breathed. With this knowledge, we could solve every problem facing the galaxy. Yes, Wanderer agreed. But first you must prove that your species is ready for such responsibility. The crystal tree pulsed with light, and suddenly the chamber around them changed. Instead of standing on solid platforms, they found themselves in what looked like a command center during a crisis. This is a simulation, Wanderer explained. You must make decisions as if you were leaders of a galactic civilization. Your choices will determine whether you pass the architect's test. The first scenario appeared around them like a three-dimensional movie. A plague was spreading across multiple worlds, killing millions. They had the resources to save everyone, but only by taking medical supplies from planets that also needed them. What do we do? Timon asked, studying the data. Deho looked at the situation carefully. Other species might have calculated the greatest good for the greatest number, or prioritized their own people first. Instead, he asked, is there a way to increase production of the medical supplies? The simulation responded to his question, showing him manufacturing facilities that could be converted. It would take longer and cost more resources, but they could save everyone without sacrificing anyone. Interesting approach, Wanderer commented. Most species choose who to save. You chose to find a way to save everyone. The next scenario was even more complex. Two species were fighting a war that threatened to destroy several star systems. Each side believed they were right, and each had valid reasons for their anger. Bora studied the conflict carefully. They're fighting over resources. But the real problem is that they don't understand each other's cultures. She proposed a solution that involved creating neutral territory, where both species could work together on projects that benefited everyone. Instead of forcing them to stop fighting, she gave them reasons to choose cooperation. The simulations continued, each one testing different aspects of wisdom and judgment. Timon faced a scenario about exploring dangerous new territories, choosing safety measures that protected explorers while still allowing discovery. Deho dealt with economic problems by creating systems that encouraged innovation instead of just redistributing wealth. But the final test was the hardest. The simulation showed them in control of the architect repository itself, with fleets from across the galaxy demanding that they share the knowledge. Every species wants this technology, the simulation explained. Some want to use it to become more powerful, Others want to control who has access to it. Some believe their species deserves it more than others. What do? Deho thought about all the fleets racing toward the station. He thought about the Mokari offering wealth, the Zephyrians demanding military alliance, the Galactic Council claiming authority. Every approach assumed that knowledge should be controlled by someone. We give it to everyone, he said finally. What? Taman asked. Captain, if everyone has this technology, humans won't have any advantage. That's the point, Deho replied. Knowledge isn't meant to be hoarded. It's meant to be shared. The architects didn't hide this repository to keep it from people. They hid it to make sure it went to people who would share it responsibly. The simulation paused and Wanderer's voice filled the chamber. Explain your reasoning. Every civilization that fell did so because they tried to keep power for themselves, Deho said. They built walls instead of bridges. They competed instead of cooperated. If we hoard this knowledge, we'll just repeat their mistakes. But if you share it freely, other species might use it against humanity, the simulation pointed out. Bora stepped forward. Then we'll have to trust them to make the right choices, just like we're hoping they'll trust us. And if they don't? Then we'll deal with those problems when they happen, Taman said. But we won't create problems by assuming the worst about everyone. The crystal tree pulsed brighter, and the simulation faded away. The chamber returned to normal, but now the repository was fully active. Information flowed through the crystal branches like liquid light. Congratulations, Wanderer said. In all the ages since this station was built, no species has ever chosen to share the knowledge freely. Most tried to take it for themselves. Some wanted to use it to control others. A few tried to destroy it rather than let their enemies have it. What does this mean? Deho asked. It means the architect's legacy now belongs to humanity, not to own, but to guard and share. You have proven that your species understands the most important truth in the galaxy. Which is? That civilization survives through cooperation, not domination. That knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. That the greatest strength comes from lifting others up, not holding them down. Alarms suddenly began sounding throughout the station. On the displays around them, they could see dozens of ships approaching from all directions. The other fleets have arrived, Wanderer announced, and they're already fighting each other for the right to claim the repository. Through the station's sensors, they watched Mokari ships engaging Zephyrian vessels, while Galactic Council forces tried to establish a blockade. Smaller fleets from a dozen other species added to the chaos, turning the space around the station into a battlefield. If they keep fighting like this, they'll damage the station, Bora warned. Watching the tactical displays, or destroy it completely, Wanderer agreed. The station's defenses are designed to protect against natural disasters, not military assault. How long until the defenses fail? Deho asked. At current rate of attack, perhaps 6 hours. 6 hours to save the greatest treasure in galactic history from being destroyed by the very people who wanted to possess it. Deho Kim stared at the fuel gauge on his cargo ship and cursed under his breath. The red warning light had been blinking for 3 days now, and his credits were almost gone. His ship, the Lucky Strike, was anything but lucky these days. The hull had more patches than original metal, and the engine made sounds that would worry any sane pilot. Captain, we really need to find work soon, said Bora Lee from the engine room. Her voice came through the speaker with static mixed in. I can keep this old girl running for maybe another week, but after that, Deho knew what she meant. After that, they would be floating dead in space. He looked at the star map on his screen and found the nearest station. Kepler Station sat on the edge of known space, far from the busy trade routes. It was a salvage outpost where desperate crews went to pick through the bones of dead ships. Taman set course for Kepler Station. Deho called to his navigator. Taman Park looked up from his charts. That place? Captain? Nobody goes there unless they have no other choice. We don't have any other choice, Deho replied. The journey to Kepler Station took 2 days. When they arrived, Deho saw why people avoided this place. The station looked like it had been built from spare parts and held together with hope. Ships of all kinds floated around it, some working, many clearly broken down like his own. The docking bay was old and rusty. When they stepped off their ship, the air smelled like oil and disappointment. Other crews walked around with the same tired look that Deho felt in his bones. These were people who had run out of options. The station master was an alien called Vextal. It looked like a walking crystal, with light moving through its transparent body when it spoke. Another human crew, it said in a voice like breaking glass. You all look the same when you arrive here, broke and desperate. We need work, Deho said simply. Salvage work? Vextel made a sound that might have been laughter. Of course you do. Follow me to the assignment board. They walked through corridors filled with aliens from dozens of different species. Most ignored the humans, but a few gave them looks that ranged from pity to disgust. Humans were still new to the galactic community, and many older species saw them as crude and primitive. The assignment board showed dozens of derelict ships floating in designated salvage zones around the station. Most had already been picked clean by other crews. The few that remained looked dangerous or worthless. These are the available wrecks, Vextel explained. Pick one, pay the salvage fee, and whatever you can pull out is yours to sell. Deho studied the list. The salvage fees were small, but even small numbers looked big when you had almost no credits left. Most of the ships were small fighters or cargo haulers like his own. The valuable parts would already be gone. Then he saw something at the bottom of the list that made him pause. What about this one? He asked, pointing to an entry marked as Cursed Zone, Ship Number 47. Vextel's light dimmed. That one? No one touches that ship. It's been here for over 100 years. Why? Because everyone who tries to salvage it either fails or dies, Vextel said. 17 different species have attempted to study or strip that vessel. The Zephyrians sent their best technicians. The Makari brought their top engineers. The Helix Collective used their most advanced AI systems. All of them gave up. Bora leaned closer to read the details. It says here the ship is over 1 kilometer long. That's huge. What kind of ship is it? Unknown design, Vextel replied. Unknown species of origin. The only thing anyone knows for certain is that it doesn't work with any known technology. The power systems are incompatible. The computer core won't interface with our networks. Some crews reported that their equipment failed just from being near it. Taman shook his head. Sounds cursed to me, Captain, but Deho was thinking. 1 kilometer-long ship that had stumped the galaxy's best engineers for a century? That either meant it was completely worthless, or it contained something so valuable that no one had figured out how to access it yet. What's the salvage fee for the cursed ship? He asked. Vextel's light flickered with what might have been surprise. Are you serious? It's listed at minimum rate because no one wants it. 10 credits, 10 credits. Deho had exactly 15 credits to his name. If he was wrong about this, his crew would be stranded here with no money and no way to repair their ship. But if he was right, I want to see it first, he said. Vextel led them to an observation deck that looked out into the ship graveyard. Hundreds of vessels floated in the dark, but one stood out immediately. The cursed ship was massive. Dark gray metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its design was unlike anything Deho had ever seen. Smooth curves mixed with sharp angles in ways that shouldn't work, but somehow did. As he stared at the ship, something caught his eye. Along the hull, he could see scorch marks and blast damage. The pattern looked familiar. Bora, look at those burn marks, he said quietly. What do they look like to you? Bora squinted at the distant ship. Those look like... Captain, those are plasma burns. Human plasma weapons. From the war? Taman asked. During the recent conflict between humans and the Makari trade syndicate, human military ships had used a specific type of plasma cannon. The burn pattern was distinctive, something other species hadn't seen because humans were new to galactic warfare. If this ship had battle damage from human weapons, it meant the ship had encountered human military forces and survived. That was interesting by itself, but it also meant something else. If human weapons could damage it, maybe human technology could understand it. I'll take it, Deho said suddenly. Captain, are you crazy? Taman whispered. 17 species have tried and failed. 18 species, Deho corrected. But none of them were human. Vextel processed the salvage claim with obvious reluctance. I am required to warn you that this vessel has been declared a hazard. 3 crews have died attempting to salvage it. The station takes no responsibility for what happens to you out there. Understood, Deho said, transferring his last 10 credits. As they prepared to leave the observation deck, Vextel called after them. Human, may I ask why you think you can succeed where others have failed? Deho paused at the doorway and looked back at the crystal being. Because sometimes the best solution isn't the most advanced one. Sometimes you just need to try a different approach. Walking back to their ship, Bora and Taman exchanged worried looks. Captain, Bora said carefully. What if you're wrong about this? Deho smiled for the first time in weeks. Then we'll be broke and stranded just like we would have been anyway. But if I'm right, he looked out at the massive alien ship floating in the darkness. If I'm right, we might just change everything. The Lucky Strike approached the alien ship slowly. Up close, the vessel was even more impressive and strange. Its hull seemed to shift and change as they got closer, like looking at something through water. Scanning for life signs, Taemin reported from his station. Nothing. Ship appears dead. What about power signatures? Deho asked. That's the weird part, Captain. I'm getting readings, but they don't make sense. It's like the ship is powered down but not completely off. Bora suited up for the boarding mission. I've got cutting tools and a portable power unit. If we can find an airlock, I should be able to get us inside. They found what looked like a docking port on the ship's side, but it was designed for vessels much larger than theirs. Bora had to use magnetic clamps and a flexible tunnel to create a seal between the ships. Air composition is strange but breathable, she reported through the radio. Pressure is good. But Captain, you need to see this. When Deho and Taemin joined her inside the alien ship, they understood what she meant. The corridor they entered was impossible. From the outside, this section of the ship was maybe 3 meters wide. But the hallway they stood in was at least 10 meters across and stretched further than their lights could reach. This doesn't make sense. Taemin whispered. The space inside is bigger than the space outside. The walls were covered in symbols that seemed to move when they weren't looking directly at them. The floor felt solid under their feet, but it had a strange quality, like walking on something that was both metal and something else at the same time. Let's find the engineering section, Bora said. Every ship has one, no matter how weird the design. They moved deeper into the vessel, following corridors that spiraled in directions that hurt to think about. Some passages seemed to curve upward but somehow led them downward. Others appeared to branch in 3 directions but actually had 5 exits. I'm getting dizzy, Taemin complained. This place is making my head hurt. Don't think about it too hard, Deho advised. Just follow where the corridor goes and trust your feet. After what felt like hours, they found a massive chamber filled with what could only be the ship's power systems. But instead of familiar fusion reactors or plasma cores, they saw crystalline structures that pulsed with soft light. Energy flowed between them in patterns that reminded Deho of lightning, but slower and more purposeful. I've never seen anything like this, Bora said, running her scanner over the nearest crystal. The energy output should be enormous, but it's all contained somehow. She approached one of the smaller crystals and examined the connection points around its base. Wait a minute. These aren't incompatible with our technology. They're adaptive. What do you mean? Deho asked. Look at these interfaces, Bora said, pointing to what looked like connection ports. They're not built for any specific type of plug or cable. They change shape to match whatever you connect to them. She pulled out a standard power cable from her toolkit and slowly brought it close to one of the ports. As they watched, the port reshaped itself to perfectly match the cable's connector. The other salvage crews tried to force their technology to work with this ship, Bora said excitedly. But this ship is designed to work with any technology. You just have to let it adapt. She connected her portable power unit to the crystal array. Instead of overloading or rejecting the connection, the alien system accepted it and began to slowly come online. Lights appeared along the walls and a low humming sound filled the chamber. Bora, you're a genius, Deho said. What else can you get working? While Bora worked on the power systems, Taemin explored what appeared to be the navigation center. The star charts displayed there made no sense at first. They showed constellations and star positions that didn't match any known maps. But as Taemin studied them longer, a pattern began to emerge. Captain, these aren't wrong. They're just using a different reference system. What kind of reference system? Instead of using galactic coordinates, they're based on gravitational fields and stellar drift patterns. It's actually more accurate for long-distance navigation. As Taemin connected his navigation computer to the alien console, the star charts suddenly made perfect sense. He could see not just where stars were now, but where they had been and where they would be in the future. This is incredible, he breathed. I can plot courses that account for stellar movement over thousands of years. Suddenly, the ship around them came fully alive. Lights brightened, the humming grew stronger, and displays activated throughout the chamber. Then a voice spoke, not through speakers, but somehow directly into their minds. Finally, the voice said, sounding both ancient and relieved. beings who understand adaptation over domination. The three humans looked around nervously. Who's speaking? Deho called out. I am the intelligence that guides this vessel. Your people might call me an artificial intelligence, though that term is not quite accurate. I am what remains of my creator's greatest achievement. You may call me Wanderer. Your creators? Bora asked. Who were they? They called themselves the Architects. They built me to explore the galaxy and preserve knowledge. For centuries I have waited for a species capable of understanding my purpose. Tamin stepped forward. Why didn't the other species who tried to salvage this ship succeed? Because they approached me with rigid thinking, Wanderer replied. The Zephyrians demanded that I conform to their technological standards. The Makari tried to reprogram me to fit their economic models. The Helix Collective attempted to merge me with their collective consciousness. But humans are different, Deho asked. Humans adapt. When faced with something they don't understand, you find creative solutions rather than trying to force the unknown into familiar patterns. Your engineer didn't try to make my power systems work like human technology. She let them work as they were designed. Bora blushed at the compliment. It just seemed logical to work with the system instead of against it. Precisely, Wanderer said. This is why my creators designed me to seek out species with specific traits, adaptability, resourcefulness. The ability to find order in chaos while maintaining chaos within order. The ship's main display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. A single point pulsed with golden light in an unexplored region. I have waited here for someone worthy to complete my mission, Wanderer continued. My creators left something behind, something that could change the fate of every thinking being in the galaxy. But reaching it requires more than technology. It requires wisdom. Deho studied the golden point on the map. It was far from any known space lanes, deep in territory that no species had successfully explored. What kind of something? He asked. The greatest treasure in the galaxy, Wanderer replied. Not gold or rare metals, but knowledge. The accumulated wisdom of civilizations that rose and fell before your species learned to make fire. Tamin checked the distance to the coordinates. It would take months to reach that location, even with the fastest ships. Not with this ship, Wanderer said. My propulsion systems can fold space in ways your science is only beginning to understand. We could reach the coordinates in days. Bora was examining the power output displays. Captain, the energy readings I'm getting are off the charts. This ship has more power than a space station. Deho considered their options. They had come here desperate and broke, hoping to salvage enough scrap metal to keep their ship running. Now they had accidentally awakened an ancient artificial intelligence that claimed to know the location of galactic treasure. What's the catch? He asked. This sounds too good to be true. The path to the treasure is dangerous, Wanderer admitted. Other species will try to stop us when they learn what we seek. The location itself is protected by safeguards my creators put in place, and success is not guaranteed. But if we succeed, Captain Kim, your species will take its place among the great civilizations of the galaxy, not through conquest or domination, but through understanding and cooperation. Deho looked at his crew. Bora was practically bouncing with excitement at the chance to study such advanced technology. Tamin was already plotting courses on the navigation system. They had both followed him this far on little more than hope. Wanderer, he said finally, set course for the coordinates. Let's go find this treasure. The ship around them began to change, systems coming online that had slept for centuries. Through the transparent sections of the hull, stars began to shift as the vessel prepared for a journey into the unknown. The battle outside the Architect station grew worse by the minute. Mokari ships fired plasma cannons at Zephyrian vessels while Galactic Council cruisers tried to force both sides to retreat. Smaller fleets joined the fight, each trying to clear a path to the station. Station shields down to 60%, Bora reported, watching the defense readings. At this rate, they'll breach the hull in 4 hours. They're going to destroy the very thing they're fighting over, Tamin said, shaking his head at the tactical display. Deho stood before the communication console, knowing that what he said next would determine the fate of galactic civilization. Wanderer, open a channel to all ships. Maximum broadcast power. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Deho Kim of the Human Exploration Vessel. I'm speaking to you from inside the Architect Repository. His voice echoed across space to every ship in the battle. I know why you're all here. You want the technology and knowledge that the architects left behind. You think it will make your species more powerful or more secure. The fighting continued, but he could see some ships slowing their attacks to listen. What you don't understand is that the architects didn't hide this knowledge to keep it from you. They hid it to make sure it would only go to those who would use it wisely. Deho paused, watching the battle rage on the displays. Your actions right now prove that most of you aren't ready for that responsibility. A Mokari commander's voice cut through the static. Human, surrender the repository to us and we will ensure it is used properly. Used properly? Deho replied. By one species? The same kind of thinking that destroyed every civilization the architects tried to save. The Galactic Council has the authority to oversee such discoveries. Came another transmission from the Council fleet. Turn over the repository for proper study and distribution. Proper distribution means you decide who gets what and when, Deho shot back. That's not wisdom. That's just another form of control. A Zephyrian admiral joined the conversation. The knowledge must be secured against misuse. Only through careful oversight can we prevent catastrophe. Listen to yourselves, Deho said. Every one of you thinks your way is the only right way. Every one of you thinks you should control what others can know. That's exactly the attitude that the architects warned against. The fighting slowed as more commanders paused to listen to the debate. Then what do you propose, human? The Mokari commander asked. That we simply trust each other? That has never worked. Actually, Deho said, it has worked. Just not the way you think. He nodded to Bora, who activated the station's main transmission array. Suddenly, every ship in the area began receiving data streams. Massive amounts of information flowing directly to their computers. What are you doing? The Galactic Council Admiral demanded. I'm giving you what you came for, Deho replied. All of you. Right now, every ship here is receiving the complete architect database. Environmental restoration techniques, clean energy systems, medical knowledge that can cure any disease, social and political systems that have prevented wars for centuries. The transmissions caused chaos across the fleets. Ship commanders frantically tried to process the incoming information, while their scientists and engineers shouted in excitement over the discoveries. This is madness, the Zephyrian admiral protested. You can't just give away such powerful knowledge without oversight. Why not? Bora asked, taking over the communication. Because you're afraid some species might use it to become more powerful than yours? Because it's dangerous in the wrong hands, the admiral replied. Everything is dangerous in the wrong hands, Taemin added. But keeping knowledge locked away is more dangerous than sharing it. The architects learned that lesson too late to save their own civilization. You're making a mistake, the Galactic Council Admiral warned. Some species will use this technology for conquest. Maybe, Deho admitted. But most will use it to solve problems and improve lives. And those who choose cooperation will always be stronger than those who choose conquest. How can you be sure? The Mokari commander asked. Because that's how humans got here, Deho explained. We're not the smartest species in the galaxy. We're not the strongest or the most advanced. But we work together. We adapt and we share knowledge instead of hoarding it. The data transmission continued, with terraforming techniques flowing to desert worlds, medical advances reaching plague-stricken systems, and energy technology spreading to power-hungry civilizations. The repository is nearly empty, Wanderer announced. All major databases have been transmitted. Wait, the Galactic Council Admiral said. If you've given away everything, what do you gain from this? Deho smiled. We gain a galaxy where knowledge is shared instead of hoarded, where species work together instead of fighting over scraps, where the next great discovery benefits everyone instead of just the ones who made it. That's idealistic, the Zephyrian Admiral said, though her tone had softened. Maybe, Bora replied, but it's also practical. A galaxy where everyone has access to the best knowledge is a galaxy where everyone can contribute to solving problems. The fighting had stopped completely now. Ships that had been shooting at each other minutes before were now comparing the data they had received. Remarkable, came a transmission from a previously silent ship. These medical techniques could save millions on our homeworld. The environmental restoration protocols. We could bring back our poisoned seas, another captain said. Captain Kim, the Mokari commander said formally, your action today has prevented a war and changed the course of galactic history. The Mokari Trade Syndicate wishes to propose a formal alliance with humanity. As does the Zephyrian military alliance, the admiral added. The Galactic Council would be honored to offer humanity a permanent seat. Came the third offer. Deho looked at his crew, seeing pride and amazement in their faces. They had started this journey as desperate salvagers and were ending it as the representatives of humanity to the galaxy. We appreciate all these offers, Deho said carefully. But humanity doesn't want to join any single alliance or organization. We want to work with everyone. What does that mean? The Council Admiral asked. It means we propose something new, Taemin said, stepping forward. Instead of separate alliances and competing organizations, why not create something that includes everyone? A true cooperative, Bora added, where every species has a voice and knowledge flows freely between all members. The architect records include examples of such cooperatives. Wanderer's voice joined the conversation for the first time. They were the most successful civilizations in galactic history. An AI? The Zephyrian admiral asked. That ship has an artificial intelligence? I am Wanderer, the last creation of the architects. I have waited centuries for a species wise enough to restart galactic cooperation. Today, humanity has proven worthy of that trust. Over the following hours, representatives from every fleet met aboard the architect station. They walked through the same memory corridors that had shown Deho's crew the rise and fall of civilizations. They saw the same examples of cooperation and conflict, success and failure. By the end of the day, they had signed the Charter of Worlds, an agreement that created the first truly cooperative galactic government. Every species would contribute according to their abilities and receive according to their needs. Knowledge would be shared freely. Conflicts would be resolved through discussion and compromise rather than force. What will you do now? The Mokari commander asked Deho as the ceremony concluded. Deho looked out at the stars through the station's windows. Continue exploring. There's still so much galaxy left to discover. Will you stay in contact? Of course. That's what cooperation means. 6 months later, Deho stood on the bridge of a new ship, not the ancient architect vessel, but a sleek craft built using human ingenuity and architect technology. Bora had established the Adaptive Technology Institute, teaching engineers from dozens of species how to build machines that evolved and improved themselves. Taemin led the Interspecies Navigation Guild, mapping new regions of space with crews from multiple worlds. But Deho had chosen to keep exploring, now with a crew that included beings from 7 different species, all working together to find new wonders in the galaxy. Captain, his new communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the Outer Rim. A species we've never encountered before is asking for help with a planetary crisis. Set course for their location, Deho ordered. Maximum speed. Aren't you curious about what kind of help they need? His engineer asked. Deho smiled, remembering a conversation with Wanderer just before they left the architect station. The AI had told him that the greatest treasure wasn't the knowledge in the repository. It was the wisdom to know when and how to share it. It doesn't matter what they need, he said. They asked for help, so we'll help them. That's what civilized beings do. Behind them, the architect station continued to orbit its ancient star, no longer a repository of lost knowledge, but a symbol of cooperation. Species from across the galaxy came there to learn, to teach and to remember that the greatest achievements came not from standing above others, but from standing together.